the Numinous Podcast with Carmen Spaniola.
Hi there, and welcome to the Numinous Podcast, where we have interesting conversations with everyday folks about the mystery of life. I'm your host, Carmen Spaniola, joining you from the lands of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, the Songhees, and the Esquimalt First Nations, recently known as Victoria, BC, Canada. Stay tuned for the end of this short episode for a special announcement about how you can access a free week in the Numinous Network this month, plus some special events happening online and in person this summer. But before we move forward, let's look back, because we are almost there, my friends, halfway through 2022. And as a person who follows the wheel of the year, you know, I'm always observing like significant shifts in these 8 micro seasons of the year. They're marked by the solstices and the equinoxes and then the halfway points in between. So I am someone who is acutely aware as we approach the summer solstice on June 21st, that the year will soon be tipping towards the dark half. Not to make you panic. Nobody panic. We're okay. We're okay. It's fine. We're going to be fine. It's just that, you know, if we had goals at the start of the year, if we made oaths about how we want to show up in 2022, this time then is kind of a threshold. You know, I mean, if you're hitting all your marks, great, you're golden, that's great. But if, like so many of us, myself included, there have been some twists and turns, maybe setbacks, unpleasant surprises for you this year so far, well, now is the time to pause. This side of the midsummer solstice, we want to slow down a little bit. Just reevaluate, recalibrate. Sarah Gottesdiener, who is so fabulous, and I'm one of her newsletter subscribers, she said in her recent newsletter, it's time to realign. And I love that, because I had already been thinking about this podcast episode, and I'd even made up the episode artwork with the thumbnail that said recalibrate, you know, halfway through 2022. And then I love it when a couple days later, you're thinking about something really deeply, maybe ruminating like me, or just sensing something in the larger collective pattern. And then someone you really respect and admire says something similar is very affirming. So before we arrive at summer solstice, a time when hopefully we should be harnessing peak solar energies, you know, that summer solstice event is about us stepping into our power to create, stepping forward into action and leadership, rising in our dignity and sovereignty. So, you know, we better straighten up. And hey, there are multiple reasons why we might not feel like we have that energy right now. I absolutely have felt in the last couple weeks, and for me personally in the last 2 months, basically my loved ones they've spent most of the time just mopping me up off the floor. So I totally get that this may not sound resonant yet. I don't know if you, like me, really felt the energy of this Gemini new moon, but new moons are about renewal. And I felt it. It's like a little opening. And as my friend Brita said, it's oh, there's a little bit of area where something's in focus. So act while the moment is open. It's time actually to act slowly. It's time. The action we want to take prior to midsummer is, as I said, reevaluation, recalibration, realignment. We look back and think, am I hitting my marks? Am I accomplishing what I had hoped to set out to do at the beginning of this year? So if circumstances have changed since the beginning of the year, and let's be clear, yes, for many of us, most of us, of course, there will be things that have changed from 6 months ago. So right now, it's time to get clear. What did we learn? What can we bless and release? What's worthwhile holding on to as we move forward? So if you set out at the beginning of the year with all these goals and there are things that have like cropped up beyond your control, then the question now is, what are rituals of acceptance or petitions for mercy or invocations for support? What can we do now to feel as much empowerment as possible in the second half of the calendar year? How can we petition the greater forces to support us in that? And while we're still in Mercury retrograde until like June 3rd, and then for 2 more weeks, right? There's always that shadow period. So until just before the summer solstice at June 21st, we still can really benefit from backcasting. So there's like nothing new we need to be looking to do right now. It's going back and saying, am I doing what I said I would do? Do I need to recalibrate, realign, reevaluate? Now, when things feel overwhelming, which much of life has for the last several months, I find it helpful to narrow the scope and simplify. Again, perfect Mercury retrograde things to do. So I ask myself stuff like, what's the most important thing to me? If there was one course of action that were to define this year, then what would I want to pursue? Like, I can't do everything. And so if I'm looking back from the end of the year, how would I want this year to be defined? If it's not as simple as that, if I need to take a more ecosystemic approach, I might ask it more like, if there was an emotional note I wanted to hit this year, what would it be? And then I'd make a list of things that help me hit that emotional note. And if even asking yourself those questions just feels like too big, too nebulous, maybe too Neptunian or something, it's like totally my chart. If that feels difficult to grasp right now, I want you to know that would be totally understandable and totally okay if you're like, it all just feels too big and too much. So then I would suggest a very simple yet very powerful somatic practice. I teach this to people in all my things. So the somatic practice is this. We'd start with the arms, and we can do this together right now, just while you're listening. So, at the gym, which is like not a place I frequent, but I have been there before. I've seen them on TV. But the shoulder press machine, gear, equipment, the contraption at the gym where you do the shoulder press thing. So like you sit on a chair and it has a high back support and there's like these bars in front of your armpits. And so you put your palms around the handles at armpit level and your elbows are up at shoulder height, armpit level. So right now I'm sitting in my chair. I've got my palms out. My elbows are up, kind of even with my shoulders. And I'm just going to push very slowly, like I'm doing Qigong or I'm in slow motion. I'm just like pushing against the air straight out from my body. Just starting to feel my arms pushing. And when I get fully extended, I just turn my palms to face me as though I'm scooping the air towards me and I'm still going super duper duper slow motion. So we're just sending signals to the brain that we have arms. Then when you get back to your armpits, you flip your palms so that they're pushing again, facing outwards. And as you push, we're just gonna get clarity here. So you might just say to yourself, I can say yes to what I want to say yes to, and I can say no to what I want to say no to. So as I'm pushing out, I'm thinking to myself, I can say no to what I want to say no to. Get fully extended, turn my palms towards me. I can say yes to what I want to say yes to. Even just hearing me say those phrases makes me curious, like what comes up for you? Because I know sometimes in the past when I've layered on, I can say no to what I want to say no to. The first thing that happens is my throat tightens up and I like catch my breath and I feel like I'm going to cry. It's like, really? I can say no to what I want to say no to? Sometimes it's more like when I'm scooping in the air and I'm like sort of embracing and moving towards myself, I can say yes to what I want to say yes to. I'm like, really? Are you sure? So all we're doing is we're letting that contraction move through, just breathing. Hope you've relaxed your arms by now. You'd have strong arms if you were still doing it. Now, if your arms don't have full range of motion, or if you feel pain there in your shoulders, you could also do this in your mind, just visualizing yourself pushing and pulling. And it doesn't have to be forward and back. You could go sideways. The idea is I can say no to what I want to say no to as you're pushing away. I can say yes as you're sweeping in. The other thing I would do is, after just a few seconds of bringing on the arms, I'd relax the arms and then bring on the legs just to connect the top part of the body with the lower part. Because if you are going to step into your power to create and mobilize, it's helpful if your gut brain and your cranial brain are connected. So the lower half of your body and the top half. So we bring on the legs. If you're sitting in a chair, you would just lift the left heel and then the right heel, as though you're walking in place. Left heel, right heel. And as you press one heel down, you're pressing it into the floor, and you maybe will feel like a hip flexor come on, or your thighs start to engage. It's just a tiny amount of mobilization, because often when we're overwhelmed, we can have a lot of freeze response in our system. That's one option. And if we move into embodiment too quickly, when we're coming from freeze, it can cause emotional flooding. Another thing when we're in overwhelm is if we have a lot of sympathetic nervous system energy, if there's a lot of activation, or there's just a lot of energy in us, we can tend to overdo our actions. We can over-respond, overreact. We can be impulsive. We can kind of steamroll into action. And so what we want to do is just pull it back, and we just want to send small, subtle signals to the brain that we have legs, and we can mobilize if we need to, but we can also be slow and deliberate as we do so. So we don't have to leap forward towards midsummer. We can just pause, kind of course correct right now. So as you're going left, right with your heels, you might overlay some other mantra, I can take one small step if I want to. Or maybe it's I can pivot if I want to. I can course correct if I want to. I can stand up if I want to. I can be still if I want to. And you could just still your legs. Now, if your legs don't have full mobility, or you feel pain, or just those motions don't feel good, you could also use your hands and your fingers for that one. So you can have one palm flat, pretending that's a little surface. It's like a little road, and you've got your two fingers of the other hand, your pointer finger and your middle finger, and they're just little legs. And they can be walking on your desktop or on the palm of your hand, just any flat surface. And you can be doing the same thing. I can take one small step. I can pivot. I can course correct. You can just do it with your fingers on the palm of your hand or on your desktop. And that sends similar signals to the brain. Okay, so recalibrate, redirect, self-regulate, so you can think about how you're feeling now that we're halfway through 2022. Now it's time. Special announcement. Okay, before the announcement, I want to briefly share about two special events so they don't get lost in the excitement. Just want you to know, if you miss any details I'm about to share here, you just go to carmenspagnola.com. I have a new events listing page on my website, so you can read all the details and registration for all my sort of main events that are happening June through October 2022. But here's two highlights. There's a few spots left for the in-person hide tanning retreat happening at my house in Victoria, July 29th to August 1st. We are tanning sheepskins and turning them into gorgeous textiles under the loving tutelage of my dear friend Mara Kerr of Fern and Row. The second event I want to tell you about is I have an in-person workshop happening in August here in Victoria at Nourish Kitchen and Cafe. I was invited by Haley Rosenberg, the owner there. We're going to be making herbal tea blends and some ritual burn bundles to honor Artemis to the Greeks, Diana to the Romans. It's going to be really lovely. Then I want to tell you about an online event I'm having. So we've been talking about midsummer solstice. That is my next major online event. So at my Midsummer Wheel of the Year event on June 19th, Sunday, I'm going to be announcing some other really big news in addition to the awesomeness that's happening at that ritual. So, as I said, every 6 weeks, we celebrate a new micro season. And we do that in the network with some event that's usually like 2 hours long. And we have some altar time. We create festive altars. We do like a ritual of invocation to call in the greater forces. We'll do some trance journey work together. And then sometimes we do a ritual craft. So on June 19th, we are celebrating Vestalia, which was an ancient Roman fire festival around the solstice. I'll be reading an excerpt from my forthcoming book, The Spirited Kitchen, Recipes and Rituals for the Wheel of the Year. And I'll be telling a folktale. This time I'm going to feature the folktale of Baba Yaga and Vasilisa and her quest for fire. And in honor of that story, we're going to craft healing dolls, which in some traditions are known as poppets. It's going to be a really fun one, and it's happening online for Numinous Network members. Now, not a member? Not a problem, because here's the special announcement. Free week in the Numinous Network is happening June 16th to 22nd. Yes, if you have been wanting to understand what the network is all about, if you've been curious about my group somatic practices, maybe therapeutic tremoring, maybe you've wanted to take one of my attachment courses. I have attachment for parents and also Secure, the magical art and subtle science of attachment. Or maybe you wanted to come to one of these online rituals, but you're like, oh, but do I want the whole network membership? Well, now is your chance. Because from June 16th to 22nd, we will activate a special link for a 7-day free trial. So technically, the final day to take us up on this offer is June 22nd. But you'll get the best value if you join on the 16th. Because during that week, we're going to have all of our usual programming, which includes almost daily somatic group practice, which is a polyvagal workout, a nervous system practice to calm and soothe your body. Plus, we have the special event, the Wheel of the Year event. Plus, my dear friend Taraneh Erfan is doing a special weekday session of her therapeutic writing class. It's called Dear Body, and it's about unhooking from white supremacist colonial patriarchal gaze around our body. It's fabulous. Also, that week, maybe if you're a therapeutic helper or a wellness professional or coach of some kind, maybe you want to come to our peer supervision session. I also have, we've got Carmen's Cookbook Club. And so during Free Week, I'm going to demo a recipe for rainbow trout with orange butter, capers, and mint, a recipe from the Spirited Kitchen. And there's more, my friends. There's even more. We're doing attachment sessions. We're doing self-massage and somatics with Danielle Smith. And we're doing what we call RCCX mapping. You can learn all about it in the network. But basically, it's creative art explorations for folks with chronic illness and disability. So, yeah, it would seem a bit overwhelming if you tried to come to everything. However, joining on June 16th will definitely give you the most robust sense of what the network is all about, and you don't have to come to everything. You just get a little taste. And of course, you'll also have access to all my courses, plus the Numinous School archives. So lots of on-demand videos and stuff you could check out. Now, when you register for this promotion, you will need a credit card. You won't be charged for the first week, but after the trial period's over, you'll be automatically charged the pay what you can pricing that you selected when you signed up, unless you cancel your subscription before the trial period ends. So that's something to know. We don't manage, it's not just oh, here's a free week and then it stops. You will have to put in a credit card, you'll get a free week, and if you don't cancel your membership, on before day 7, you're going to get charged for a month, and we're not going to do anything about that. That's up to you to manage. But all you got to do is, well, there's nothing actually. There's nothing you need to do right now other than sign up for my newsletter so that you're sent the free week link on June 16th. If you want to know more specifically, you want to know exactly what time each event is happening and see if it's going to be worth your while to, clear your calendar or put it in your calendar, you can see the full schedule by going to carmenspagnola.com and you click on the Numinous Network in the top navigation, and partway down that page, you'll see the complete events calendar. So again, free week starts on June 16th. Go to carmenspaniola.com and you can sign up for my newsletter, and that way you will get the link sent to you on June 16th, and you will get in on all the goodness that's happening over in the Numinous Network. So that's it. Thank you for listening, my friends. I hope you'll return soon. I have multiple new episodes coming in the next month that I think you'll love. A few that are Numinous podcast alumni guests that I really enjoyed talking with, and I just really wanted to continue the conversation. So returning to the show this month are Danielle Blackwood, who wrote this great book, Lantern in the Dark, about the midlife transits in astrology. Great conversation. And really complementary to that, I'm having Nikaya Seeds come back on, Red Moon Mystery School on Instagram. We are going to talk about sovereignty at menopause. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And then I'm having Nicholas Pearson back because he's like a polymath. He's so fantastic. Last time he was on, we were talking about crystals. This time we're talking about flower essences. And then I've got new folks too that I can't wait to introduce you to, and I can't wait to be in dialogue with. It's a big month for me, and I know for all of us. I hear the astrology this summer is pretty crunchy. The astrology is pretty challenging, my friends, from late July through August. So till then, let's hold hands and look both ways as we step out together, shall we? I hope you'll join me in the Numinous Network, June 16th to 22nd, so we can practice together and get into some nice shared rhythm, so we can calm and soothe our nervous systems and get more skillful with self and co-regulation, so we can navigate whatever is to come this summer. All right? Until next time, take care.